What if DC's greatest detective faced Marvel's most powerful titan? Would Batman defeat Thanos, or would Thanos snap his fingers and turn the Dark Knight into a pile of dust? Let's get into it. Thanos has two main things going for him in this matchup: strength and strategy. There are other things like his Infinity Gauntlet, which gives him almost unlimited power, but we'll talk about that later. First, let's look at the Mad Titan himself. First of all, he's incredibly strong, probably stronger than Superman. He was able to lift an entire planet off the ground and hold it up while fighting the Avengers. So when Batman says in Batman vs. Aliens, quote, "I'm not a strategist, I'm a scientist," that's not gonna fly here. And even though Batman does have the upper hand against opponents with superior strength because of his genius intellect, this is a much tougher nut to crack. Batman will need more than some batarangs and a cape to take Thanos down. And then there's the Infinity Gauntlet. Thanos usually uses this only as a last resort because he's afraid of losing control over it, but it makes him so powerful that it's hard to imagine anyone defeating him without it. We saw in Infinity War what he can do with it. So what makes me think Batman could stop him without it? Well, mostly strategy. Like I said before, Thanos has a tendency to underestimate his opponents, and he can be manipulated into making bad decisions, like when he thought he could trick Deadpool into giving him the Infinity Gauntlet. Thanos is also sometimes reckless and will charge headfirst into battle instead of taking a moment to think through the situation, which leads him to getting beaten by heroes who shouldn't be able to defeat him, like when Spider-Man saved the day in the comics, when he was bitten by a radioactive spider. Speaking of getting bitten by spiders, now back to our matchup. So what are Batman's strengths? Well, first is his genius intellect. Batman doesn't have super strength or speed or flight, but he does have a genius intellect. In fact, I'd say his intellect is one of the best superpowers in the DC universe. Batman is a master planner. He always has a plan in place, no matter how many times things go wrong. He's also very adaptable, which helps him deal with any obstacles that stand in his way. When he was trapped in a cave full of venomous snakes, he was able to stay calm and find a way out. When he had to fight Bane, he was able to come up with a plan to beat him, even though he was weaker than Bane. And when he had to fight Deathstroke, he was able to beat him, even though Deathstroke was faster than him. His second strength is his prep time. Batman plans ahead and takes advantage of his opponent's weaknesses. When he fought Deathstroke, he took advantage of the fact that Deathstroke couldn't swim. And when he fought Bane, he took advantage of the fact that Bane had a weak spot in his shoulder. No! 3 is his gadgets. Batman has a lot of cool gadgets that help him in fights. For example, in Batman vs. Aliens, he used a device to boost the signal of the mothership, which allowed him to track it and destroy it. He also used the sonic emitter to kill the alien warriors, and Num 4 is his strategy. As I said before, Batman is a master planner and strategist. He knows how to take advantage of his opponent's weaknesses, and he always has a plan in place. Now, Batman has taken on tough opponents before, like Deathstroke, Bane, and the Joker, but these guys are nothing compared to Thanos. Thanos is stronger, smarter, and has the Infinity Gauntlet, so how could Batman possibly win? Well, let's break down a few scenarios and see how they play out. The first scenario is Batman vs. Thanos without the Infinity Gauntlet. In this scenario, Batman has 3 days of prep time. This is enough time for Batman to study Thanos and come up with a plan to exploit his weaknesses. We know that Thanos is reckless at times and can be manipulated into making bad decisions, so Batman could use this to his advantage. Maybe he could set a trap for Thanos, knowing that the Mad Titan would rush in and take the bait. Or maybe he could make Thanos think that he's defeated him when really it was all an illusion. Even if Batman can't come up with the perfect plan in just 3 days, he's still a better strategist than Thanos. So I think Batman would at least put up a good fight, maybe even manage to scratch the Mad Titan. But ultimately, I think Thanos would prevail in this scenario. He's just too strong and skilled to be taken down by Batman's gadgets and tricks alone. But what if we add the Infinity Gauntlet into the mix? That's when things start to get interesting. The Infinity Gauntlet gives Thanos almost unlimited power. It allows him to manipulate reality itself. So in this scenario, I don't think Batman stands a chance. Thanos could simply snap his fingers and wipe out Batman and everything that he stands for. But what if we give Batman some backup? What if he had the whole Justice League behind him? Now that's a fun scenario. The combined powers of the Justice League are truly awesome. They could definitely put up a good fight against Thanos. But would it be enough? Well, it depends on how Thanos is written in a particular story. Sometimes he's portrayed as being invincible, and sometimes he's portrayed as having weaknesses. If we assume that Thanos is at his most powerful, then I think the Justice League would lose. Thanos would simply snap his fingers and wipe them all out. But if we assume that Thanos is at his most vulnerable, then I think the Justice League would win. In this scenario, Batman would likely lead the attack against Thanos. He'd use his knowledge of the Mad Titan to exploit his weaknesses, and he'd direct the other heroes to attack accordingly. Superman would be there to provide muscle, Wonder Woman to protect the civilians, and so on. What if we give Batman prep time and specialized armor designed to counter Thanos? Well, that's a much closer fight. If Batman has enough time to prepare, he'll likely design a suit that can withstand Thanos' attacks and maybe even exploit his weaknesses. Maybe the suit would emit a frequency that would make Thanos' head hurt, or it would be made of a material that would absorb the energy from the Infinity Gauntlet. In this scenario, Batman would likely take the fight to Thanos. He wouldn't try to hide in the shadows or use tricks and gadgets. He'd go straight for the jugular and try to take Thanos down in hand-to-hand combat. This would be a brutal fight, but I think Batman would come out on top. He's just too strategic and relentless to be taken down by Thanos. Now that we've broken down a few scenarios, it's time to answer the ultimate question. Who would win in a fight between Batman and Thanos? Honestly, I think it depends on the writer. If you put Thanos up against someone like Spider-Man, he'll probably win. But if you put him up against someone like Batman, he might lose. So it really depends on who's writing the story. There are a lot of crossover fan theories online, and people are always talking about how cool it would be to see Batman fight Thanos. There's even a story written by Joe Quesada called Batman vs. Thanos, Immortal Hulk vs. Dark Knight that reimagines what would happen if Thanos invaded Gotham City and killed Jason Todd. I think that story is great because it shows how different Batman would react to this new threat. So who would you bet on in a fight between Batman and Thanos, the Titan or the Bat? Comment below and let me know. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my others where I explore the intersection of pop culture and theology. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.